Oireachtas. Deputy Smith.
Thank you very much, Cahill. And like others, I welcome the delegation here, and I want to compliment Shane on the quality of his contribution. It covers a very wide facet of all activities in our border region, and very comprehensive and a welcome. I also want to compliment you on the publications that you have produced over the past number of years in conjunction with Cathy Hayward of Queen's University. And actually, Declan and myself, or Deputy Brannock and Deputy McLaughlin and myself, as members of the British Irish Parliamentary Assembly, would have had Cathy giving evidence to us in committee session at those committee meetings as well. And I know, and Owen Doyle and Pat Traynor would be aware as well, that as Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Oireachtas, I brought parliamentary delegations from abroad to Cavan and Monaghan, including the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House of Commons, and we drew widely in the presentations that were made both in Monaghan and Cavan County Council, drew widely on the publications from ICBAN, so I compliment you on those. Indeed, I passed on our thanks to Councillor Paddy O'Rourke when he chaired ICBAN for the quality of those publications at the time. Mention was made of the delivery of health services, and Deputy Brannock, as Chairman of the North Eastern Health Board, was instrumental in bringing Koch about when an agreement was signed in Ballyconnell in July 1992, I think it was, and that particular initiative has worked well, and indeed we'd like to see it expanded, so we would. With regard to waterways, and you quite rightly mentioned the potential of the Ulster Canal, and I would also like to see the Erden navigation, or the Erden system, made navigable from Baltorba to Killikeen and Killashandra, building on the Erden-Shannon waterway, formerly the Ballyconnell-Ballinamore Canal, as Councillor O'Rourke would know so well. We both live quite adjacent to that area. It has been phenomenally successful. The Waterways Ireland were here with us on the Locks Agency, and obviously they have a very limited budget. They don't have the budget for the capital investment that's needed, never mind rolling out new product or enhancing product, just to keep product maintained because of the usage of the waterways. There's huge pressure on their capital budget, but we have to keep pointing out the potential of the waterway system in our area to grow considerably tourism numbers. I know very well in the late 1980s and early 1990s, when the restoration of the Ballyconnell-Ballinamore Canal was mooted, there were a lot of cynics in a lot of political parties and organisations at that time who said it would never work. It had proved to be phenomenally successful. Likewise, the Ulster Canal will be when it's restored, I think. With regard to the A5N2, again at this committee, even before Brexit, we had Transport Infrastructure Ireland here on a number of occasions, and officials from the Department of Transport, because as a committee we were very concerned that it wasn't moving along, the commitment wasn't given in regard to the necessary preparatory planning and design work, particularly in County Monaghan on the N2. It has moved on somewhat, but again this week it was disappointing to learn that that particular funding allocation, that may not be available at the present time. We would sincerely hope it will, because it's so important for the northwest of the country. You quite rightly point out, it's an issue that we have been raising here as individual members and in discussions with the Dáil with regard to Brexit, is the very high dependence of our local economy, particularly in the Cavan, Monaghan, Fermanagh, Tyrone area, Leitrim as well, the huge dependence on the agri-food sector, construction products and engineering. And of course they are the three sectors that are more highly dependent on the British market than elsewhere. And so I know some of those sectors have already, as you quite rightly pointed out, have been impacted by Brexit. So any fluctuation in sterling, any weakness will cause immediate difficulties. But our key sectors are the sectors that are most vulnerable to the adverse impacts of Brexit. That has to be a source of concern for us. And other colleagues and myself, we have argued with ministers and with the Minister of Transport in particular, that we are to try to help industry and business in our region to remain competitive. We have to invest in infrastructure. To try to upgrade infrastructure, it can reduce costs somewhat, but if you don't have a modern infrastructure, it's an extra impediment and cost to business. So it's a message that we would heartily endorse in your particular presentation here. With regard to, you mentioned about island-wide territorial cohesion policy, Again, as we all know, the European funding is post-2020 cap. We'll hear about that funding for cap post-2020. But the overall budget for the European Union goes in those multi-annual cycles. And again, and maybe you would draw up some proposals that we could help to advocate in relation to, would be that we get a specific cohesion fund. In the past, you will remember the debate in this state in particular in regard to Objective 1 status, etc. The huge growth in the economy in the 1990s and the early 2000s changed the status of some of our regions. I think, again, we should be making a very strong demand for our region, north and south, to get specific cohesion funding because of the challenges we will face as a result of Brexit. I think it's a very important area. Maybe more work could be, if more work can be undertaken by yourselves in relation to how we can push government here and government elsewhere to support specific proposals to draw down cohesion funding, because you take some of the countries that acceded to the European Union in the mid-2000s and subsequently, they have had infrastructure upgraded significantly through cohesion funding. We should argue again that we are a special case, and I think it's very important in that respect. But could I just say, I compliment you, and I also know that you have done very good work in regard to the whole issue of broadband infrastructure and the lack of it, and the mobile telephony problems we have as well in our area. And I compliment you on that publication. But what you are saying here to us today are issues I'm sure that all of us can readily agree with and support. And again, I thank you, Shane, and all of you who have contributed here so far this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.